I'm now speaking with Nigel Scott. Nigel is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Association here in Washington, D.C. It's one of the oldest associations, national association, Trinidadian national associations in the United States. Nigel, welcome to our program.
Welcome. Thank you, Vaughn. I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. Well, the association has been around for a long time, man. I remember when I first came to Washington, shucks, about, 50 years, 60, near 60 years ago. Um, After a couple of years, fellas used to be fetting up on Hobart Street. And next thing I know, there's an association. You want to give us a little sense of how all of that came into being?
Yeah, I was not there when the origin were at the origins. What happened was that there was a group of guys at Howard who played soccer, and they decided that they wanted to form a team to play in the Washington Amateur Soccer League, and that was in 1964. The interesting thing about this team was that it was made up, it was called the Trinidad All Stars, but it was made up of people of guys from, you know, Guyana and Jamaica and the other islands. Although it was predominantly Trinidadian and
Right.
Tobago, there were guys from all over, and including um, at least one player from Africa. So it was a cosmo a conglomeration of people from the different areas, all of whom had met at Howard University, and all had played soccer for Howard, and so they started out playing in the league. Um, those days, the league was very nationalistic in origin because you had Italian cadets and British Lions and El Salvador and Guatemala and Greek Americans. And so Trinidad All Stars was the name that British Lions, and so Trinidad All Stars was the name that the guys chose because of the majority Trinidadians on the team. And the significance of that was that this was the first Black team to participate in soccer in Washington, D.C. It was an all-Black team. And it was the uniqueness of it was that most of the teams were not accustomed to be playing Black players and the referees, and so it was a very antagonistic situation when the guys took the field. I started playing with them in 66, and I quickly learned that, when you went out there on a Sunday morning to play, you had to be prepared to encounter the referees, the players, hostile people on the sidelines. And not only that, after all of that was said and done, they did everything to try to throw us out of the league. They would go to meetings and they would accuse us of being drunk on the field, and they would accuse us of all kinds of stuff, but we persevered, and it was a success because after a few years, and you have to remember that this was in the years of the civil rights years now. We're talking about 66, 67, 68.
Right.
You had a different climate because the whole civil rights movement was going on, and there was that aspect of it on the soccer, but also on the sidelines and in meetings we had to deal with the whole race issue on top of the soccer issues.
Right.
Now, from there though, and because I think a lot of it had to do with the movement of the times, um, the guys started holding meetings, and from these meetings, it changed, and so by 1968, they started doing some cultural things, some plays and performances. I remember one guy who was here at the time was Astor Johnson, who actually went back to
Yes.
Trinidad and formed his own dance group, and we had a
Repertory dance company.
yes, and he when they had shows and when you would put on shows around Christmas time and skits like that, Astor would be the star before he went back home. And so in 68, the name was changed from Trinidad All Stars to become the Trinidad and Tobago Sporting and Cultural Association. And because of the cultural aspect. Now, around 1970, you remember there was the uprising in Trinidad.
Right.
That had repercussions up here. And a lot of activity was taking place around the guys and the association and meetings and all that kinds of stuff. And then one thing led to another. One of the things that happened was that we used to have to raise money to pay for the league. And in order to raise the money, we decided to start having parties. And so that's when the party thing came about. And so you would raise funds through the parties so you could pay your referee's fee and the league
Right.
and stuff.
Right.
And that led now to, because we used to have problems wherever we went with having the parties, because we would want the parties
After the party, man want a party outside of the party house.
want to take the party to late, but
Yeah.
but the parties had to stop at 2 o'clock. And so that came about that they said, well, look, it's time we find our own place. We need to find our own place. And so they started talking about that in around 68, 69. And then in 1970, some of the guys had left and graduated and gone. And we found ourselves without any place to have meetings. And we were holding meetings at Dr. Cyril Brown's house because he was the first president of the association.
Right.
And after that, we decided we're going to buy a building. And so the association, it started in 64 as Trinidad All Stars, but in 1970, it was incorporated as the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Washington, D.C.
Right, 1970, right.
1970.
What role did Sir Ellis Clark play in the association facilitating?
Ellis Clark played a major role because when in 1970 we decided that we were serious about buying a building and we incorporated and we became a serious organization, we went to Sir Ellis Clark at the embassy and we had a meeting with him. And he said, well, you guys have some good ideas. Let's see what we could do. And he put us in the hands of his second in command, Matthew Ramcharan. And eventually we submitted a proposal and they worked on it and gave us a small amount of money to help us with the purchase. They gave us, I think it was $2,500 or something like that, as a sort of seed money. But we had to raise the rest of money for ourselves. And between September of 1970 and I think October of 1971, we raised the money to make the down payment on the house and bought that house at 1501 Delafield Place in 1971. So
Yeah.
for over about a year, it took us to raise, it was $9,000 or $10,000 that we needed for the down payment, and we raised that money and bought that house.
Yeah.
And but you know the story of
But
Delafield.
did you think that it's a legendary, that's a legendary place, 1501 Delafield Place. I mean, anytime anybody come to town or looking for somewhere, 1501 Delafield Place was the place to go.
1501 Delafield Place became the center of activity in Washington, D.C. for the Caribbean community.
Right, right,
Anybody who lived in Washington, D.C. between 1971 and say 1990, 1991 or 92 knew about 1501 Delafield Place
right.
because that was the place where you had meetings, you had parties, you had, everything was taking place there.
But
But the
also,
association was not only parties though,
right, right,
because at the same time that we were doing these things, we were also raising money and sending back to organizations in Trinidad. We bought medical supplies and we would do things and send things back to Trinidad. We
yeah.
had we started the Round Robin soccer tournament, and we had the Round Robin soccer tournament that we ran every year. We were doing
Which
charity.
was like, tell them what it's like, was like wrong robin. People coming
Oh,
from all over the country.
that was when you had teams from the community, and we had teams coming in from Canada, from New York, from different places, and they would come in here, and then over the Saturday they would play soccer games um, among the teams, and we would have trophies given for the best teams, and it was the round robin was an activity that people look forward to for years, and for we ran that round robin for I would say about 30 years continuously
Right,
in
right.
Washington DC. Um, but let me go back to soccer for a minute, because soccer was important in the whole evolution, because after the Trinidad All Stars, then some years later, Haiti formed a team, and you had Etoile de Haiti, and then the Jamaica, and at the same time, almost at the same time, Jamaica Nationals formed a team. So you had three black teams now in the league, and the competition among the teams was major, and you had professional players and semi-professional players playing for these teams. So it helped to develop the whole community, the whole atmosphere. I mean, soccer was critical at the time to the community and to what was taking place in the community.
But it also, I think you can say it was a catalyst for change. Um, because one of the good things I saw happening out of the association with the clubhouse, for example, somebody come in town and or don't have a place to stay or anywhere to go, they were able to rest their head in the clubhouse.
That's right.
Um,
That was one of the things that happened. People would come into town, guys, come into town. They had no place to go, and they would say, go to the association,
right, right,
and they would be accommodated for a
right,
while until they got their feet on the ground, and then they would move on. But
yeah,
it was really the center of activity
yeah,
in
yeah,
Washington D.C. for a while.
yeah. But I would also say that it could have been the catalyst for the advancement of the other islands to create their own national associations.
Well,
Like
yeah,
Jamaica,
there was
Barbados.
right those organizations were formed after Trinidad and Tobago Association was formed. But you also have to remember that there was CAIO before there was the association. So
Yes.
CAIO existed before the Trinidad Tobago
Right,
Association.
right.
And so there was, there was a whole issue when the association bought the building.
Right.
I mean, if you were wrong at the time, there was
I remember.
when the association bought the building because people
By the
was
way, ladies and gentlemen, CAIO is derivation for Caribbean American Intercultural Organization.
there was a question as to how could these young upstarts buy this building and people Cayo can't build this building can't have their own building. So a group of upstarts who just came in and uh,
Yeah.
did that. But there was a wide range of activity taking place.
Right.
People coming from Trinidad, from the government to visit government officers and prime ministers. I mean, we had prime ministers coming through there. A&R Robinson. We had Basdio Pandey come through there. We had we had literary people like George Lamin, Shirley Chisholm came through there, and we would have it would it they would come to the association as the place to meet not only Trinidadians and Tobagonians, but people from the Caribbean. It was really the hub of everything for the Caribbean, particularly among the younger people and students and people who were interested in Caribbean activities and Caribbean unity and stuff like that. They would all gravitate to the association as the place to meet and exchange ideas. So it wasn't just a party place,
Right.
Yes, there were parties, but it was more than that. It was a cultural center, a,
Right.
educational and cultural center for the for all for people from the Caribbean.
Right. Yes, yeah. Um, do you, no, it's new times now. The old has gone. It's new. I mean, what has happened? Uh, where do you see the vision of the association diminished, or do you see it just as different times, a different sense of thinking has to take place?
Um, that's a loaded question for. I don't know if I have the answer for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
question, but I will attempt to see to put some thoughts on it. Um, when in the 60s and 70s, um, there was a different atmosphere. There was a unity in the air that um, no longer exists. Now, why it no longer exists, have there was a smaller unit of people, and it was easier for that unit to stay together.
Yeah.
Now you have a larger group of people, and not only that, the older group who were here and who stuck together, there is now their children are here, and the children are Caribbean. They believe in the Caribbean. They love the Caribbean, but you have to remember that they were born here and grew up here, and so that same sense of togetherness that existed amongst us is not is our children don't necessarily have
Do,
that
do
all
you,
that. But
do you be, go ahead.
oh wait, let me finish. Let me finish. The emphasis has to be on the promotion of the Caribbean culture, and that is where we have to emphasize. We have to place our emphasis and to see that the culture of the Caribbean is preserved among our children and grandchildren.
Well, I was now going to say that do you feel that we as parents did not teach or prepare our children didn't hand over these things significantly to our children.
Yeah and no. Now, I'll give you an experience with the association. Um, the association moved from Delafield Place to Georgia Avenue,
Right.
and that was a significant change. The needs of the community are different. The the youths go out and party and do what they have to do anyway. We felt that we had to be within, operate within our own little group. They have a freedom to move beyond where we were, and that is good. That is as it should be, because if that didn't happen, there would be no progress. So we have to see what the fact that they are out there doing their things and being successful as our success, because we set the seeds for them to become what they are. Now, how do we preserve our culture, and what we have to do in terms of the the needs of the community, because the community has a lot of needs.
Yes, yes.
There are a lot of needs out there that are not being satisfied.
Agreed.
And we have to try to find the ways and means to make that, to meet the people where they are, and to provide for them the kinds of things that they need. Our community is no different from any other community that 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 um, that you have, for people who come from abroad and settle and put down roots. Our community is no different. It's the same. And so um, we have to understand where we are.
Right. Nigel, our time is running out. Um, I think this is significant because many people in our society don't know about the history of the association and how what you have told us this evening. And I think it will be very important. But I also think that we need to on another occasion pick up where we left off to go forward, to go future. There is a future, and I mean, I myself with Caribbean, I'm searching for this future. Where is it going to go? So it's a challenge. So I think through the communication, we perhaps will come to a good understanding of that, you know. So any last words you want to leave with us, or you want to leave it till when you come back again?
No, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to talk about the association. It was a challenge over the years, and there are many people who contributed to the success of the
Right,
association.
right.
It wasn't, and what contributed to that success, and what made the association successful, was the fact that you had dedicated people, and you still have dedicated people
Yeah, boy,
who
yeah.
were able to come and give of themselves, volunteer,
Yeah.
and give of
Some names
themselves.
that go through my mind is like Stolmeyer and
You know.
Pajak Singh, and I mean,
Well, but yeah, but you have to, you have to. There are a whole host of people.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Victor,
You had to go back
Victor
to,
Brown. I mean, no gosh, boy.
Cyril Brown and
Yeah,
Ashton Paris and Nolan
yeah,
Jordan and
yeah.
Harold Kell and
Yes,
many more
yes.
people who are still here. You know, you know, still working. And it's you talk about Herman Samuels all the time, and
Right.
and then there are the women. who
Yes.
in the backbone of the association
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
who work quietly in the background. And
Exactly so.
we tend not to pay attention to the work of
Right.
women and they have been the source of a lot of the energy of the association in the last few years. A lot of what has happened with these associations is because you have the strength of women. And we need to look at that and appreciate that.
Right. 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 Okay.
That's what I will say for the time being.
All right, thanks. I've been speaking with Nigel Scott. Nigel is one of the members, the early members of the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Washington, D.C. And we've been talking a bit about the history. It's a history that will continue. We still continue. We'll continue the discussion on another occasion. This is VonMartin. Caribbeana continues. All right. Okay. All right, Nigel.
All right, Vaughn, thanks very much.
No problem, man.
When you don't know when this is going to be broadcast.
Nigel, what's his name isn't here, so I'll when he comes back in a couple of weeks.
All right, well, let me know when
Okay.
it's going to broadcast it.
All right.
Okay
Okay.
then.
Take
Thanks.
care. All right. Bye bye.